So now came a watershed moment in his life. He was sitting in the facility where he was institutionalized, watching television. And what was he watching but an episode of the Jerry Springer Show. And they were doing a piece on afflicted people who behaved exactly as this young man behaved. And through the fog of these psychotropic drugs that he was taking, he watched the screen and he said to himself, "That's me. That's the way I act. These people are doing exactly what I did and what I continue to do." And they were not schizophrenic, and they did not have paranoia. They had something called, you've guessed it already, I think, Tourette's syndrome. Out of the institution, imagine the anger that this young man felt for having spent almost a decade of his young life thinking that he was crazy. Not only him thinking it, but his family, the people who were supposed to love and support you, believing that he was a psychiatric case, when in fact he wasn't. He was so angry that he decided that he wanted to bring a lawsuit against the psychiatrist who had made this diagnosis, and I shouldn't call it a diagnosis, I should call it a misdiagnosis, over the past 8 or 9 years of this young man's life. And so he did. He came to us, he told us his story. It was so moving to listen to him that we decided that we would do some research and think about whether or not we could prove a case, whether this was an innocent misdiagnosis or whether this psychiatrist should be held to account for costing this young man almost a decade of his life. We consulted with a number of well-known and academically credentialed psychiatrists. They reviewed all of the records of this young man, and each one of them said the same thing. This is a misdiagnosis that never should have been made. And so a lawsuit was launched, and over a period of almost 4 years, prosecuted right up to the point of trial. When faced with this young man in the courtroom, the psychiatrist and his insurance company decided that they would settle the case and paid him a confidential but very substantial amount of money in settlement. During the course of the lawsuit, this young man, now in his early 20s, joined the TSA, that's the Tourette's Society of America. And there he found people just like himself. And I'm happy to report that while at the TSA, he met a young woman also suffering with Tourette's, not nearly as severely symptomatic as his, but nevertheless a sufferer with Tourette's. And lo and behold, they fell in love and they got married. They now have 3 children, and they live in northern New England with their kids. They own a 200-acre piece of property on top of a mountain. Every morning he gets up at 5. He is out of the house, winter, summer, spring, or fall, walking his property, discharging his tics. If you know anything about Tourette's, you know that it's a tic disease, that they're both physical, that people move themselves around and shake in ways that are inappropriate and sometimes bizarre. And they're also verbal tics, where people shout and curse and scream and make comments that have no relationship to reality or anything else. But don't forget, it's a neurological disease. After doing that for a couple of hours, he's home, has breakfast with his family, he has discharged those ticks, and he's ready to live his very nice, very happy life with his wife and 3 growing children. So there's a happy ending for you, and it's a case that I'll never forget because it's so incredibly rewarding. Much of the cases, or many of the cases that we handle, are sad and don't have a happy ending. It's rare that they do, and those are the ones that I try to remember. Thanks for taking this time to listen to me, and if we can ever be of service to you, you can call me or any of my partners at Rappaport, Glass, Levine, and Zullo, 631-293-2300. Ask for me if you like. I'll be happy to talk to you. Thanks.